Hi guys, I'm here to address a couple of things that have popped up over the weekend. I just want to give clarity on some things and just say my thoughts. One of the more interesting things that have happened is the amount of people that have vocalized their disapproval of me speaking out. I'm naturally a very avoidant person, so usually I avoid conflict, I ignore people, I ignore problems, I never really say what is wrong, so I'll deflect a lot. But I've since decided that my narrative is my own and nobody gets to tell my story for me. And for a couple of years now, people have been telling my story for me. There are so many different versions of events, but sometimes it's kind of scary. One thing that has particularly caught my attention was a live that happened on TikTok on Monday, dedicated to unpacking the tweet from Sunday that I had posted on Twitter. But what interests me the most about this particular live, I had not gotten a real sense of what people thought of the ordeal and me, mostly because I haven't spoken out in a while. Besides, at one time, I was so scared and I was shaking, and I went on my Instagram live and I tried to unpack things, and I ended up sort of messing that up a bit because I was so scared, and I ended up just going in 1,000 different directions. This time around, I've had years to process, to heal, to finally be able to speak up, and I can answer the one question that I singled out, or the one misconception that I singled out, that I find pretty alarming. And that is the actual chronology of what really happened. Social media says they don't forget, but what I found in my particular case is social media has forgotten a lot. There are pieces of information that have been so misinterpreted, whether on purpose or not, that they have painted me out and made my character very questionable. If I was sitting on the other side of this entire thing, I would also think there's something wrong with my story. What I want people to understand is that I did not come onto this platform to advocate for my victimization. I did not come onto the platform back then in 2019 to even speak about the fact that I just wanted people to rally behind me. I came to social media as a matter of need. I came to social media as a matter of urgency. I came to social media as a matter of safety. So stay tuned for part 2, in which I will detail the exact chronology of events and try to address some of the issues. Probably part 3 and a part 4. Welcome to part 2, and these are some of the things that I'd like to address, misconceptions and things that I've heard people talk about in this interesting live. There's this underlying desire that I hear from people to villainize me because they feel like there's no other option. There's also the narrative of being bitter and the narrative of being an attention seeker. There's also this thing, put together with that whole bitter thing, almost like they want to make me out to seem like some woman who wanted something and did not get that thing in the form of money. I hear the narrative cut a lot of Mavuso coming up. It's like, please do not compare these situations because they're not the same. I'm a fully fledged artist, holds her own, very successful. I do not need anything from anyone from my past. In order for me to have been bitter, I would have had to be the one that was left, which is not the case. In actual fact, I made sure that I got away, and me speaking out was a finalization of that to say, please do not ever claim me again. The attention seeking part seems to come from the idea that I just came to social media unprovoked and just shared my personal life with people. And like I've mentioned in part 1, which you can go watch, I am not a person who shares easily, and I do not share my private life with just anyone. Now you ask yourself, when did this whole thing start and how did it start? If you are curious, here are the answers that you probably seek. So chronologically, around the 5th or 6th of April, there were pictures that that person had posted on his social media, which were the images that are constantly used where we're wearing white clothes with a white background. Those pictures alluded obviously to a romantic relationship that was ongoing, and that was not the case. I had called the individual and I had asked what is going on, why are the pictures on social media, and he had answered and responded that he had been hacked, and I said, That is not okay with me. I am going to tell the public that we're not together. And he begged me not to, but I felt because that was my brand being tied to his, I needed to make it very clear. There had been lots of congratulations from other artists. There had also been a lot of comments from people who were saying, oh my gosh, we did not know, this is so great. So for me, it was imperative that I quickly squash those things by giving a blanket period of time with which we had been involved. Something that is important to note is that between that period and 6 months down the line, there were a lot of things that happened. However, the thing of importance was the concert that happened, with which I was called by a friend of mine to tell me that I was trending. Only to find, because of the pictures that had been leaked 6 months prior, people were now saying that I was a side chick, and thus I decided to tell my story. Welcome to part 3. Just to continue, I had been invited to the one-man show, to which I had declined, and I stayed home, and I was baking the next day, and a friend of mine called me the day after the concert and told me that, hey dude, you are trending. When I checked the trending list, it's Lady Zamar, side chick, Lady Zamar, homewrecker. To which the person who put me in this situation to begin with says nothing to address the fans and the people that are going on and on about the fact that I am a side chick. I've mentioned before that my brand is very important to me, and I did not want to be associated with things that were negative. And for me, having that type of title, to be a homewrecker, to be a side chick, was a very, very damaging label. Considering the fact that I had not been a willing participant in the starting of that relationship to begin with. The entire time, there had not been any discussions or agreements about being physically intimate. So when that thing happened, I did feel forced because I felt like I had gotten into that situation without my consent. And moreover, I stayed in the situation because I felt like I deserved it, because I felt like I had walked in there willingly. I did not have to be there. And so the entire time throughout that relationship, I blamed myself. I stayed because I wanted to get something back that I could not put my finger on, but I also stayed because I felt like I had to stay. When I finally got strength, I decided to leave and run, not just leave, run away from that situation. So, can you believe my horror that the career that I've worked for and worked so hard on for such a long time was being tarnished by, again, unwillingly tarnished by something that someone had done carelessly without telling me, without consulting with me, and just deciding on their own to attach themselves to me in such a public way, and then going on to say that they were hacked. From April up until the point that I told people that I had been sexually assaulted by someone, I had decided, after working through it with a lot of the people around me, that I would not tell anyone, and I would end up writing a memoir one day which would detail the account when my career was no longer in jeopardy. I had decided to die with that secret. Up until that moment that my name came up and again was attached to being a homewrecker. I'm a Christian. I have Christian values. Those are not things that I can subject myself to. And thus, through a lot of pain, I decided to tell the public that this is actually what happened, and I wasn't a homewrecker. In actual fact, I had been the one that had been deceived. I had been the one that had been hurt. I had been the one that had been abused. Welcome to part 4 and the final part. I feel like it's very important for me to say this. If you're dating someone, if you're married to someone, if you just have like a one night stand with someone, even if you go to a prostitute and that person says no, it's a no. Be it male or female. No is no. People need to stop thinking that because there's a girlfriend status, that you guys have agreed to have sex. It does not mean that even when you want and she doesn't, or when you want and he doesn't, you can just force it because of your relationship status. Same as marriage. Marriage is also about honoring each other. Marriage is also about respecting each other. So when a person that you're married to says no, you have to take their no. Getting back to it, just to finish this off, I'd like to point out that I simply stated during that time that I had been sexually violated. I'd been sexually assaulted. Next time, given the progression of events, I had been sent a letter to recant what I had said. After that, I was served with a defamation lawsuit, which attached my name and which was basically demanding for damages. I went to the police station, I recounted everything that had happened. It felt like it had just happened the day before. I cried the entire time I was there. That was the very first time I had allowed myself to say the words and say them in a place that would actually make a difference. Every time I think about that, every time I think about just how much pain I went through, and I think about how I just never wanted to speak about it. I never wanted to talk about it, and I'd been put in the situation where I was being forced to defend myself from something that had happened to me. I was heartbroken. And thus began the entire social media thing, where now there were voice recordings that were leaked. Now there were people that I used to work with that were going on social media talking about me being obsessed with him. There was an entire smear campaign that was created to make me look like I was such a liar. There were narratives that came out that basically said I was paid by a record label. There were narratives that came out that said I had said things about his private parts which were completely false. Everything that happened was unfortunate, and these are the facts.